Hi, everyone. I have the opportunity now to speak with Jayanti Murty, who's CTO of Digitate. Welcome, Jayanti. Jayanti, let's talk a little bit before we get into the questions. Just give me 30 seconds about your role with Digitate.
Yeah, so I work as the Chief Technology Officer for the North Americas for Digitate. As part of this, I basically have three key parts to my role. The first, and which I consider the most important part, is to work with customers and prospects to define and realize their AIOPS journey, to visualize how the journey looks like, how the transformation looks like, and to work with them through that, while evangelizing our products that can enable them on this journey. The second very important part of my job is to ensure that the product is positioned appropriately in the marketplace. I interact with a bunch of stakeholders, including our partners, customers, prospects, industry analysts, and other technology stakeholders as part of this process. And the third key and very important part of my role, which is also, it's closer to my heart, is basically bringing all of the learnings back into the product itself from an architecture perspective, from a technology perspective, and from, in general, a product strategy and a roadmap perspective. So these three aspects of my role keep me occupied most of the time. And there are some, of course, little bits of extra work that we do on other fronts as well. But yeah, this forms the core of my role, John.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that core part being around interacting with customers and prospects. In those interactions these days, are you seeing a kind of an increased sense of urgency among CIOs about IT transformation and digital transformation?
Absolutely, absolutely. And every time I talk to a customer, I think one of the important aspects of our conversation has been to, how quickly can we move on certain things, right? And things that are important these days, things that can improve resiliency, things that can improve business continuity. If you really look at transformation, it just doesn't happen, right? And there are a lot of building blocks that are very important for a successful transformation. So whether it's the tech debt, right? How much far off are you? Whether it is the cost to transform, what's the length of your journey? What are the, if you talk specifically to AI and automation, how good is your data foundation? I mean, do you have all of the right data collectors in place? What is the process side of it? What's the organizational change aspect of it? What are the opportunities for automation? Do we have a visibility into what should be automated? And this entire digital transformation, IT transformation, these are like massively encompassing terms. But if you take it specific to a particular domain, these are all building blocks. And I see in my conversations with most of my customers, their questions and the inquiries and the urgencies around these aspects. How quickly can I build up my data foundation? How quickly, can I, get processes in? How do I, find out processes that can be automated? And also, there is a certain reluctance to taking decisions which will increase tech debt, because they are looking at, hey, today I'll try to do this on-prem, but 2 years down the line, my cost to SaaS transformation is going to be much higher, and then the cost that I'm going to incur over the 2 years. So they're thinking in those lines, and I certainly feel that urgency. And I'm glad that there are technology platforms that are available to accelerate this journey. So that's how I'm able to help them out.
So we see this as well in IDG's research, certainly about how people are reacting to the pandemic. We've seen more focus on the digital transformation, business transformation. What do you think is spurring that urgency right now?
I think if you really look at this entire, the new normal, as we call it, it has left many enterprises more vulnerable, right? More vulnerable to outages, more vulnerable to disruptions, to their entire operations platform, to their supply chains, and to, even cyber security vulnerabilities as well, right? So there's a new threat landscape. So that's a lot to, accommodate in a short span of time. And these are all aspects that have now pushed, resilience, the ability to recover from outages, the ability to recover quickly, and what goes into achieve that resilience. Because resilience is just one term, but believe me, at an engineering, at a technology level, and I've lived through this, it takes a lot to build that, ground up in a strong foundational manner, right? And I'm glad some of my customer interactions, many of the customers are taking the right approach. They're taking it, trying to get more fundamental, get the basic things right first, and just not hurry on to doing, band-aid fixes and things like that. So obviously resilience is top of agenda item, business continuity is top of agenda item, system stability, operation stability is the top of the agenda item. So these are all things that dominate these strategy discussions, right? They're all front and center of it, and these terms are not just restricted to IT. It is like the entire landscape, whether it is biz ops or application operations or IT operations, and of course, IT is driving a lot of the business, but the discussions are a broad spectrum of discussions. So I think that's where the urgency really lies, to get these right and get these right fast.
Makes sense. So what's the playbook here? How do you recommend that CIOs go about this and address these issues? What should they be focusing on?
If you really ask me, I mean, I've thought a lot about it, and we as Digitate, we have had a lot of internal discussions. But I think it all boils down to five broad things, and that's what needs to be the order of business here. The first thing is to really, can we get this remote working construct sorted out? Is it, can it be perfect? Can, like, if you look at it from an operations context, can we provide all of the remote working stuff with a single view of the problem, with the data and the access to the systems, as if it was a typical co-located one? And it's very important for business operators too, because if you think of a retail store and you've got some operator in a store, how do we make sure certain parts of the transactions are executed on time and things like that? So enabling remote workforce is key. I think that's like one theme. The second key theme would be to have noise-free IT, right? So you don't want to have too many alerts, you don't want to have too many of these little incidents and disruptions, and you don't want too many of these events that cause calls with multiple stakeholders and impacting customer experience and things of that nature. So you want to eliminate the noise out of IT. That's a second imperative, and that means optimization on so many fronts, right? The third key theme is automation, right? So automation is not new; it's been there for ages. We are just looking at it very differently today, because we are talking about automation at multiple levels of maturity, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But automation as a general theme across business processes, across operational processes, across technology aspects of it. That's the third key theme. The fourth key theme is optimizing spend. Obviously, you don't want to be subject to contractual aspects that with price variations or with the availability of certain goods and services. So you want to have a strong analytical view towards your spend and how your various procurement aspects are in line, because those do have a bearing on all of the other themes. And the last but not the least is this whole aspect of adopting cloud, right? So we know that cloud, in general, cloud or SaaS, or those are all experimented, adopted, mainstream, but it's just should be a default option, because that drives a lot of the other benefits around these four other themes as well. So I think these five broad themes should be the focus area, or I would say the core principles of the playbook that CIOs and I&O leaders in general should adopt and make it a priority.
That makes sense. I love that term, noise-free IT. Jayanti, talk more about how AI, machine learning, and automation, which are key themes of our event, play into this. How do they fit into the playbook?
Yeah. So I think that if you really look at operations today, and I'll give you two different perspectives to it. The first part is you look at traditional operations, which is really a function of tacit human knowledge, and is a function of how well that human knows. It is generally not consistent. It is error prone sometimes. And then you go to the state of automated operations where you automate some aspects, where you mimic human actions, and then there's a human in the loop, and it works well under certain defined parameters. To the third stage, where you actually bring in intelligence and automation together to essentially have the ability to bring hindsight, insight, foresight to action. So you can deal with situations which are far more indeterministic in nature. You can do that at a speed which is not realizable with general regular teams, and all of these need to work together in the construct of one single situation or a problem. And that's what we at Digitate, we use the word autonomous enterprise operations, right? So where the capabilities of artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation essentially come together to drive resilience and customer experience and overall agility of operations. And that's key here. And even when you look at automation and intelligence, they do have their own maturity scales, right? So you look at automating simple tasks, workflows, and activities which you know what to do, to being able to deal with situations for which you need a context aware and context driven intelligence platform that is basically informing all of your actions. So that's the key aspect here. Yeah.
Got it. Great. So, Jayanti, what's Digitate's approach to this?
So Digitate's approach, I'll talk about it from a philosophy perspective and as well as from a product perspective. See, but as a general approach, if you look at the customer point of view, we want the customers to realize the end goal of being autonomous, right? And which means there is a path to it. So you need to be organized. You need to catalog what you have, your assets and your properties, and the relationships between them. And then you have the ability to adapt to the changes to your assets and the overall landscape. So that's one part of it. And then the second part of it is to automate, right? And automate, identify processes, automate them, while you are continuously building and enhancing the data platform to profile and to generate intelligent, actionable insights. And then both of them eventually converge to create the autonomous state. Now, in order to realize this end state through this journey, in Digitate, we are basing our entire thing on three principles. The first principle is to understand and learn the context of the enterprise, which essentially means that can I learn about the structural and the behavioral aspect of the business and operations that actually impact the entire flow of work. And learning that requires a combination of data mining, machine learning, and several other technologies to visualize that kind of information. That's the first principle. The second principle is, can I use AI, ML, and analytics to generate actionable insights? And the third principle is, can I use automation to handle both reactive and proactive scenarios? Reactive, where there are situations, outages, disruptions, and I can resolve as quickly as possible. And proactive, meaning taking actions in an automated fashion to actually prevent such incidents from happening. So based on these three principles, our product suite has 5 features. And these features are: learn context, manage alerts, handle incidents, perform actions, and optimize proactively. And all of our products in Neo from Digitate have these 5 steps interwoven. And if you look at the industry at large, any technology, any product uses some derivative of these three principles that I spoke about. And we take that very seriously to really drive home the point of closed loop, autonomous approach. So we are enabling autonomous enterprises using this AI ML based closed loop approach.
So, Jayanti, does it work does it also work for DevOps and business ops the same way that you can use it in IT ops?
Absolutely. I don't think that AIOps is something that is restricted only to technology. It pervades, multiple domains. In fact, I think that there is a lot of synergy, or the application of AIOps is in many ways a way of doing things, right? It is a way of bringing in data from multiple sources and having a way to analyze and generate insights in real time. And I think that construct applies to BizOps, DevOps, and all of this. In fact, we have even applied this construct the dev side of the world when we released our product on assurance, the AI.assurance, where we want to use automation and intelligence to accelerate the release of software, have release agility for enterprises. So definitely, it's not constrained to technology or IT operations only. It expands to far more.
Great. And Jayanti, we've covered a lot of ground, but do you have any last thoughts on this? I mean, we're always looking for practical advice for our audience members, next steps, action items. What are your final thoughts here?
Yeah. So I think broadly, if you look at the entire landscape of our customers, they fall under three buckets, right? The first bucket is those that are trying to understand the value out of this reimagined way of running operations, which is driven by AIOps. There are customers who have experimented, have had success, and then are looking at scaling this to the broader enterprise, and some that are well on their transformation journey. Now, for all of these enterprises, I would say that the fundamentals, right, get all of the observability aspects strong, build a strong data foundation, because those the better the data foundation, the better is the quality of everything else that follows. uh, Thirdly, we take a view in Digitate to have coverage of the complete layer, right, from business to applications to technology platforms to infrastructure, and across the whole 9 yards, from real learning context all the way to optimizing proactively. So to look at it in a holistic manner and not just as a point solution manner, though that is very important. I would say this is also a great time to rationalize all the tool sets that are out there, because every enterprise has many tools, some of which are redundant, and organizing these tools in an architecture that is aligned and oriented in an AIOps manner is very important. That's a great opportunity here, and those is though that is a big opportunity. Many of my customers are looking at how do I optimize my tool set, and how do I create an enterprise architecture view of this. I think that's another thing that is missing in many parts with many processes, which I try to evangelize. Take an architecture approach to this, right? Look at all of the capabilities, look at the alignment between business and IT and all of those aspects, and from this IT operations perspective. So these are some foundational aspects. There are technologies available. You can go for a unified enterprise platform, something that we at Digitate do. And many customers take mix and match approach of many tools, but then there are integration challenges. But either way, the realization of value is key. I think the momentum for this transformation is going to be built as this transformation pans out, right? So you got to use automation as a key momentum aspect in adopting the intelligence aspects of it. So how those things are interwoven. So these are the subtleties. The last bit of advice that I always give to all my customers is, in this technology aspect, don't forget about the process and the organizational change aspect, because there are implications to that as well. And you have an opportunity to establish an automation office. You have an opportunity to drive benefits through a single, program managed approach aspect of it. And then you can actually transform your IT operations workforce from doers of work to trainers of the machine or authors of knowledge, right? And that's the eventual transformation that we want all enterprises to undergo.
That is terrific advice. I particularly was struck by the architectural approach to this and then thinking through those people and process angles. So I want to thank you, Jayanti Murty, CTO of Digitate. What a terrific discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, John.